proudly fake whiskey. Smoking pot, dirty cigarettes, leave 'em on the porch, 26 steps. Wash it down with the sips of proudly fake whiskey. Smoking pot, dirty cigarettes, there's butts in the can and after my breath. Wash it down with the sips of proudly fake whiskey. Smoking pot, dirty cigarettes, leave 'em on the porch, 26 steps. Wash it down with the sips of proudly fake whiskey.
It was a community. Everyone, and I don't know if that is really specific to our years, but everyone knew each other. Everyone knew, there was no like exclusive parties. It was everyone, you knew someone who was going, you tagged along, you went, and everyone kind of took care of each other.
It's a microcosm of America, really, right? Just like probably every other college campus.
Being an international student, I say this to every American person, that I wasn't shocked much by the American culture that we got a lot of orientation for. I was morally shocked by Hampshire culture. I mean, Hampshire has a very strong culture. I was not prepared for that.
Hampshire is a place that is completely defined by the people who are there at that moment. Every year, it's like a totally new place. Every year, it's a totally different experience because there's new people coming in and there's old people going out.
You know, my parents like to say that this was the college for the misfit toys.
There was a wonderful sense in the early years of just a collection of oddballs, people that were just exploring in a different way. And that culture was fantastic to be in. It was a wonderful thing. You know, in the movie Star Wars, the first one, there's a bar scene, Tatooine, I think. And it's like every different kind of alien species is meeting there more or less congenially. And you sort of, when I saw that movie, I said to my dad, that's like Hampshire in the beginning. Like we were all in this alien bar and we were trying to negotiate our own stuff and realized that you had to get along, that tolerance was a fundamental aspect of human civilization.
But if you don't have the kind of support network on campus, then that's not necessarily going to be helpful for people who don't feel like they fit in the mainstream society, but then go to a place that's kind of in the woods and they never have to leave their dorm room.
There was a sense that Hampshire was a place where you were going to be isolated to some degree because, for one thing, everybody had a single room.
So when the college was being developed by Hugh Stubbins and Associates, the original architects of the college back in the day, they went to Amherst and they asked the students there, you know, what types of rooms do you want to live in? And a majority of them said, well, we want to live in singles and we want to live in on-campus apartments. So Stubbins took that and took it to heart. Because the class was being dethroned and the individual was being elevated, that a lot of individual learning would actually happen in the student's own dorm room themselves.
You would have your mod, but then there'd be like another mod with all of your friends, and maybe that was in Prescott, so that would make you go out to go there. But generally, because we're so small, it just like, it didn't matter because everybody kind of knew everybody's business anyway.
Unlike on a campus like UMass, there's very little anonymity here. You have a potential to know everybody.
People weren't unfriendly, but I don't think they went out of their way to socialize outside of their own comfort zone that much.
I always hated that people wouldn't say hi to you on the path between Prescott and the library because, like, get over yourself. Like, just say hi. Just even a what's up nod.
There was certainly animosity. And, you know, there was a sense that that could also bubble up at any particular moment.
Or maybe we can give them like the benefit of the doubt that like we're all like extremely awkward like nerds who think no one wants to talk to them, and maybe that's why no one says hi.
Everyone tries to put on this persona and like acts with like 12 layers of irony. They're like, and I do it as well, but like people are afraid of actually like expressing themselves, so they make everything like this spectacle of what they think other people won't make fun of them for or will.
We never called them cliques, we called them friend groups. But Hampshire is one of the cliquiest environments known to mankind. Unless you make good, smart, early friend group choices in your first year, it will very quickly lead to social isolation and then social ostracization.
Especially in the winter, like nobody wants to like hang out. Like no, like if you're not my like closest friend, like I don't really have much time for you.
There's very, very hard to relate. Very hard to relate to other Hampshire kids. Other than the fact that you're at Hampshire and you eat the same food and you go to the same parties.
There's so much potential. Like everyone, I feel like there's a lot of energy of people coming here wanting to be on this really leftist, like we're doing good work, we're all doing something that has to do with addressing some big problematic global capitalist patriarchal hierarchical issue, but then it ends up like kind of stagnant at that, and folks don't know how to interact. It just kind of like gets dragged down to like, oh, let's go smoke, or let's go do something contingent on some type of lifestyle that's not healthy.
You know, there's a certain kind of stoner that's like a creative and seeking stoner, and I think Hampshire sort of attracted that kind of stoner. It certainly attracted like just people that love to smoke weed, but I think they didn't last very long because that's not really what Hampshire is all about, even though it's not what Hampshire is about. Are they still growing weed in Enfield in the greenhouse mod?
You know, like it's interesting that we're no smoking now, because I remember that was such a huge thing, was smoking just in general. Like at any party I went to, it was like clouds of smoke that you would walk into all the time.
And we don't really have like a student life center, you know, like a place where really kids can come and like.
The RCC was a smart but failed attempt at building social cohesive space. There's really only the Bridge Cafe that allows for any social mingling. Otherwise, there's no actual true gathering space. The library, exceptionally functional, but again, a library, and you can't be loud there.
Like people join book clubs to fuck around here. You go to collage club because you're trying to get tail, because there's nothing else going on.
In my first year here, actually, Fish played in the RCC, which was crazy.
Sonic Youth, I remember, came to Saga. It was amazing.
The like essential Hampshire College rumor of Nirvana and the Pixies playing a double bill in Saga.
There was a place called The Tavern, which I don't know if that's still there, but it had a pool table.
If my good friend Derek, he had a band that was just other Hampshire students, The Tavern was a gig that they were, that they were going to play once a month or something like that.
When I started, the tavern sold beer. Once that sort of shut down, it definitely made things more challenging.
And you can obviously remember the days when the tavern served beer and wine. It was open till 1 o'clock. Now that it's closing early, what sort of effect do you see it having on the social life here at Hampshire?
Really screwing it up, making it very hard for people to get together. It's the last place where people can get together and meet, and they closed it down. I'm real upset about it.
I think that a lot socially is gone. I don't think the beer itself is a great loss, but I think that the beer attracted a lot of people.
It would be nice to have a beer right now.
Well, as you can see, despite the loss of the liquor license here at the tavern, drinking is still not unheard of. Just the students are now finding more innovative, more legal, and more lonely ways of entertaining themselves on weekend nights without the tavern. For Infinity, and for Dan Epstein behind the camera, I'm Mike Chapman.
The only thing to do is to party.
I go to them, but also, I guess, have thrown a bunch of them, whether it was first year with Team Magma, which was chaotic, or like last year in our mods, but mostly these days just go into them pretty much weekly.
Parties end up being kind of like a departure from like what Hampshire is normally. Yeah, it's kind of like a release from it.
The first thing that I noticed about Hampshire parties is that I felt safe, and just knew, like somehow I just knew that that wasn't the case everywhere, or at least that I wouldn't everywhere.
Because we were a relatively small place, and because you sort of knew everybody, at least well by face if you didn't know them personally, that there was a comfort level.
I like that it's like a community thing, and that the community is small enough to have similar people show up all the time. Some people don't like that. I can see how then they would hate the party because, oh, it's all the people I know, and that's like a bad thing to them. Okay.
I would say I partied because in high school I really didn't. I was a pretty kind of straight-laced kid. I don't think I smoked pot until I was like 17.
It was the thing to do. I mean, here we were in college, and it was Friday or Saturday or Thursday night, and it was time to party.
I don't know, you spend a whole week doing work, and the only possible thing that can feel relieving at that point is just move your body a whole bunch. And if it's with people you love, and if it's with music that you love, even better.
Hampshire parties are a way of community and getting together.
What's your real name, dude? Game. I should have known that. What up, dude? How are you doing? Ah! Oh my God, this is the first time in such a long time. Like, I've hung out with you guys like proper.
That's awesome. Always ends well. There's never a bad time as long as you go in with good intentions. It started with my room having an open door to whoever came in. That was like the first week.
It was the first floor room, so like it faced the Merrill Quad too. So you could have these window parties.
We threw parties because we were maybe a little underwhelmed with the parties we went to, or didn't hear the music we wanted to hear at the parties we went to, didn't see the like effort we wanted to see at the parties we went to.
Pretty much from Thursday to Saturday, we would throw window parties. I would open up the window, put the boombox right there, people would dance outside.
I think we got noise complaints like every Thursday night, pretty much.
Yeah, there was a yik yak and a police report that come to mind.
Yeah.
And everything, it felt like everything had like a theme. Like there were like theme parties all over the place.
I don't think I've ever thrown a non-themed party that wasn't for a birthday.
We threw a Where's Waldo party where we made a little Waldo and hid him and said like whoever gets him or whoever finds him gets a prize.
I threw one public party. It was a pun party. Had a guy with a bunch of mushrooms around his neck that was Fun Guy. I remember a guy that was like Facebook. Like I don't know, he had like a book on his face.
So yeah, the police report, it was very specific.
But it was jumping in and out of the window, drinking.
Drinking while drunk was the specific
Drinking
phrasing.
while drunk.
Drinking while
was the
drunk.
phrasing of it.
Jumping in and out the window while listening to Queen and the Beastie Boys.
To smoke weed.
To smoke weed.
Jumping in and out of the window, drunk, drinking. To smoke weed. They wrote it up different in the email. They said different artists. It was Queen and the Beach Boys in the email, and then in the police report it was the Beastie Boys and the Beach Boys.
Which it was definitely the Beach Boys.
It was all of them, for sure. It was definitely all of them.
If it's a mod party, like the woods is another thing, but if it's a mod party, then it is small. So it's really just like friends interacting rather than like, I don't know, craziness everywhere.
First year, I didn't really go to that many like mod parties because I felt like mad uncomfortable going to like people's houses that I didn't know and like not knowing the majority of the people there.
You know, each mod kind of has its own personality based on the people who are living there. And if you knew that a party was happening at a certain mod, you had a sense of what the feel of that party was going to be. And so I think a lot of what made a party good at Hampshire in terms of a mod party was there was good people putting it together.
What's the best mod for a party then?
Mod 4.
Of course.
Obviously.
Always and forever.
Prescott was like the city kids. Like Prescott was always like kind of really hip. It was a really good time, but it was more like, it felt like more sophisticated in a way, you know, to some like 18-year-old kid. Greenwich was always sort of kind of hippie-ish, a little less hippie-ish than Enfield. Enfield was very, there'd be someone, a live band, there'd be some, you know, someone playing guitar soulfully in the corner. And Greenwich was more of like, there was a mix and it was like a house party. It was like, you know, people in the center of a donut, people in the mods spilling out. You know, it wasn't just one mod's party. It kind of became the whole donuts party just by default, you know, and people, you know, sitting on the porches and passing out beers and stuff like that.
The floor in Mod 35 broke last semester, and that was iconic.
Because it just like sank, and it was kind of like a trampoline, and everyone was just kind of just like hopping on the trampoline floor and just like still partying, still having a good time, despite the fact that like literally the floor had caved in.
We always say that like, as long as you can dance with your friends, even if there's just like 5 other people there, then it's a good time. But even if there's like 100 people and you can't dance, then.
So if it's a mod party, you and 90 of your closest friends are in a 15 by 25 box, hopefully with the furniture removed. And it's not really so much dancing as it is so much communal crowd shifting.
Where people are like kind of like bumping into each other, and like, you know, you bump into something, oops.
Dancing's fun, and I think that it's fun to watch people dance, especially if you're going in the direction of trying to press your body against someone else's body.
There was a lot of bumping and grinding.
My people just kind of boogied and grooved. And if you had ever been in the hallways of a Grateful Dead concert, you'd know what I meant.
We just had fun. It was just, it didn't matter if you could dance, it didn't matter if you had no idea what you were doing. You were a body packed against another body, and you were just moving. You were just moving.
I have gone to dance concerts and fallen in love with people just like over like a 45-minute period of just watching them move. It's pretty incredible if you're really good at it. Some people are really good at it and some people aren't so good at it, but even then it's still fun to watch. I don't dance that hard, you know, anymore. I've cooled down, you know. And if everyone's dancing, they all look stupid. So it makes it easier to hang.
God, I think the worst thing about Hampshire parties, the white people, but also just like that sort of like nervous shuffle. If everyone's into it, if there are like a lot of people or like a good amount of people, like it can be a good party. If there's good music, it can be a good party. When those like elements are missing, like that's just like the worst thing. Because you just like walk into a party and you're like, oh God, like I have to at least stay here for like 10 minutes or else it'd be like really rude because there's like 7 people in this room right now.
The only thing that bothers me about having that many people in my house is the amount of cups that accumulate. Because everyone needs like a cup. I don't know why people don't come with their own cups.
No one leaves with a cup though. We actually have more cups. We just get more cups.
I'm really impatient. I always want the party to be over. Like I'm always like, it's gonna be over by 2, and then there are people here at 3:30 in the morning.
And when people just ash on my coffee table, I don't like that.
No, that's just me.
Yeah.
If you go to a party and it's not, there's like not really that many people there, and you walked in the cold, that's the worst.
I found the mod parties not as much fun as the planned parties because you couldn't dance because it was so crowded.
And I think the college understood that, and the college began to sponsor these things. It wasn't just enough to build some buildings and some dorms and hire professors and have classes and have other events going on, but it felt obliged, maybe because of our isolation 4 miles south of Amherst in the middle of an apple orchard, its obligation to provide social context.
I think it's a really unique aspect of Hampshire to have sort of these kind of school-sanctioned festivals that are not always what you would think of as legal. The school knows that it's happening. The school knows that there's underage drinking. The school knows that, you know, there's stuff happening, and they still allow that space for that to happen. And I think that's kind of nice.
We had like Tour de Franzia.
Guys, welcome to 2019 Tour de Franzia. The stations are still being set up, but I think it's time for the race to start.
It's like this hilarious thing where you drink a bunch of wine and try to do a bike race or something. Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, there's a stop here, There's a stop in Greenwich and there's a stop by Dakin. And you know the first person to make it back here, we have a great prize this year. So be competitive. Okay, may the fastest biker walker win.
Tour de France is literally like, it's really hard. It's between Tour de France and Keg Hunt. I don't know like which one I love more, but I think it's Tour de France. Like Tour de France is so good. It's just like you're just getting wine drunk as you ride your bike, and like you don't even have to like you should win. Like the point is like you gotta win, but like the point is honestly actually just like get really wine drunk.
Oh,
yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
You take the bag out.
Oh, out of it, yes.
Yeah, you put it in like a drawstring Nike bag, and you cut a hole for the spigot, and then you fucking walk around, and you just bend over and put your mouth to it and drink
You guys have coffee?
Well, your friend.
That's the next step. I just MacGyvered this shit open.
Well, I remember before I started Hampshire, Rolling Stone came out with this article about Hampshire Halloween.
The famous Trip or Treat Hampshire Halloween party.
Legends across the nation of this college in the middle of the woods in the 60s and 70s having the biggest Halloween party of all time.
Shake, 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 shake the room. Gonna exhume on you the Hampshire Halloween anthem. Happy Halloween, you freaking motherfuckers. Hampshire Halloween, come out and freak this party. Yeah.
I sort of want to believe that Halloween, which when I grew up was just kids going out in little costumes and getting candy, or teenagers making mischief, had suddenly become a national event, and I have always attributed Hampshire as the beginning of it all. I remember walking down the steps into the dining hall and seeing this Halloween party that was wild. It was Dionysian. There were people in the most outrageous costumes, including some guy who wore nothing at all. It was, somebody was a table and his head was sticking up through the table. There were loud things, and I realized that this was a different kind of Halloween.
There was a sense that this was a big deal, that the Hampshire Halloween was a big deal, and that people were going to be cutting loose, and getting high and doing whatever they were going to do and maybe tripping.
Hampshire Halloween is, best paired with like drugs.
Trip or Treat, where some mods in Enfield were giving out acid, and you could trip or treat at their door.
Purple pudding understood the way it used to be when my mother jumped out of the turkey. One time ago, I was talking to myself and said that the only thing I couldn't remember was everything that I once said to everybody at the same time.
Back then, Halloween was all done in the dining commons. And it was really a kind of crazy scene. I mean, think about our whole campus sort of all smashed up in there. So it was kind of a gross, sort of sweaty, everybody dressed up and kind of out of their minds. I mean, it was very fun.
The Halloween party that I went to, nothing like this had ever happened on the planet, except maybe in ancient Rome, and it just felt kind of wonderful, like you were Alice sliding down, the rabbit hole, and there was some other world that was opening up, and suddenly this place where you went and ate became this kind of amazing dense party. I mean, every movie you've ever seen of dense parties, this was one of them.
Sound and Light was dedicated to the idea that there was an art form that really became popular in the 1960s, where behind a rock and roll band at a concert, there'd be a light show going on. There'd be all sorts of different images superimposed upon one another. That was a whole nother form of entertainment in addition to the music. All of us in that particular group were also Deadheads at the time. So we had this other organization called the Hampshire College Grateful Dead Historical Society. And the two of these organizations would tend to sponsor each semester a big event at the dining commons or under the solar panels. And the idea was to either have a band or recorded music. We would cover, let's say, 2 of the walls in a room with bed sheets, essentially, white sheets that covered the entire room. And then across from those walls, we had scaffolding built up with film projectors, slide projectors, overhead projectors. We had a smoke machine, we had a mirrored ball, we had a strobe light. It was a big deal. It was something that we would make a poster for and, you know, really sort of create a lot of buzz leading up to. In the aftermath, we usually would say something like, wow, that's the best one we ever did.
Can you tell us what Halloween means to you?
It means living out my fantasies.
It's what America is, this silly holiday.
Capitalism.
Campus gets shut down and like you have to have tickets. Like it was this like exclusive party, and you know, and the fireworks would start it off, and it was a long night, but it was also a really fun night. And I think most of the kind of stuff that would happen where kids drank too much or whatever were really kids who came from the 5 colleges.
It was a big event. People knew about it. People came from Brown University to Hampshire Halloween one year. A car full of them came, and they came certainly from UMass and the other Valley colleges. But people had heard about it, and they wanted to be there.
You know, there was amazing music.
We did get some pretty good bands. I think I remember like Black Flag and They Might Be Giants.
There was amazing costumes. Like it ranged from wrapping your body in saran wrap and glow sticks to like full-on like puppetry costumes.
In fact, I remember this guy, Ivan. He was on the Frisbee team. He always seemed like this sort of wise sage. You know, now I look back and he was all of like 20 or something. But he always seemed to have something wise to say. And I remember him saying before the Halloween party, he said, you know, people dress up as what they really want to be for Halloween. And I was like, oh my God, you know, that's so intense.
There was some creative stuff. You had people doing, you had people actually putting thought into their costumes. You know, when I look at what's going on at Burning Man now, I mean, that's certainly a far more sophisticated version of things. But there's a intentionality about really putting some thought into your costume and presentation and making it count. And I felt like there was some essence of that going on with Hampshire Halloween.
Are you guys Frankenstein? Dice. We're here with Chris Glock. Chris,
I'm an alcoholic for Halloween. How y'all doing?
Hi. How do you do? I see you met my loyal, but faithful. I've known the words.
I am Dionysus, the orgy god. Sure, yeah. What brings you? Come to my palace. We shall have an orgy.
In 98, 99, like we were hearing stories of how crazy Hampshire Halloween was, you know, in the 80s, and you know, there's always that feeling of, oh, did we honor that tradition? Did we do okay by, you know, the traditions of the past? In some ways we did, in some ways you could never live up to that.
Sex, right here on TV. Speak to us, please.
There are no words.
I am not a phallic symbol.
Right.
I am a bioluminescent squid.
Bioluminescent squid. That's it, folks. Bioluminescent squid. It's on sale today at every fish market around your area. You want to say hi to Mom?
Hi, Mom. Hi, Mom.
How do you like this party so far?
It's terrific.
Yeah? You having a great time?
Yeah, I'm having a great time.
There was a lot of romanticism about what Hampshire had been in the past, particularly in the 1970s. And there was also just a lot of new energy amongst the student body, particularly in the governance cliques, about like wanting to show up and show off. We scrounged up about $90,000 for Hampshire Halloween. And it was huge. This was the biggest main stage we had ever produced. It was almost 100 linear feet of LED wall paneling with overhead lighting, full laser rig, full apno rig with fog and mist. The tent was probably 150 wide by 300 long. It was almost as big as the commencement tent. And we flyered Amherst, UMass, Smith, and Mount Holyoke. It was the fastest Hampshire Halloween ticket sellout in the history of the event.
I had posted 50 flyers for Hampshire Halloween that said that corn was coming. And I put them up at the bike racks And then like in the dorms, yeah, because I wanted the people in the dorms. I knew the people in the dorms would actually believe it. It was a big thing. I saw people on social media talking about it like crazy. One guy was doing the math. He was like, "Looks like they're touring in Texas like the day before. Like if they took a flight, blah 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 blah." He was like doing this like math of if they could possibly show up in time, and then like the answer was no. It was so easy to really fool people.
And then like at 2 o'clock in the morning, you would go to the tavern and have breakfast. They serve breakfast there. What they started doing after that when I was an area coordinator was they would do breakfast in the dining commons. There was a student who was a year older than me who was kind of a little strange. I'm not going to mention names, but he's kind of strange. And he came down, and it was my dean and then another person who worked in Hampshire for a long time too I worked with. Were both there at the door, and he came down, he was naked. And I said, well, you can't come in. You're like naked. And he's like, okay. And so he goes back up to his room, and he comes down, and he just has a sock on.
The president of the school or the dean of the school was there serving pancakes at midnight.
The president would come and serve tater tots. And it actually was a really nice way to kind of make sure everybody was okay. And then that next 2 days, that weekend after Halloween, it was like you didn't hear anything. Everybody was quiet. I mean, obviously this year it's different. We're a lot smaller, so it's just a different vibe. I mean, we have 750 kids where we would normally have close to more than 1,100.
The bar has been lowered year by year, and I don't think anyone this year was excited. I don't know a single person who went to the campus-sponsored event on Hampshire Halloween, but there was a bunch of other shit going on. And because the date had a name, the whole thing was very crowdsourced, and there were 5 parties happening, 5 Halloween parties, and I thought that was great.
That's the other Hampshire tradition. Fuck it, if the administration's not going to do it yourself. You are, if you don't like what they're doing, change it. Make a new tradition, change it. Now more than ever, you need that coming together and getting all your shit out, because the world is a shit show, and to have the shit show encroach on this amazing little bubble that Hampshire is, that sucks. You guys need Hampshire Halloween. You need it more now than ever.
This is Susan Miller-Dumars, Hampshire College, Fall '84, and this is a true story. Hampshire College Halloween. Wearing prom pink with white gloves, I was hypnotized by my skirt spinning. Chuck and Mike were lazing on this bench. The moon was silver. And Andy walked by, dressed as Jesus in a long white toga, hair wavy like a midnight ocean. And he was carrying this crazy cross, big as him, and it was white in the moonlight. And Andy said, "Hey," and we said, "Hey." And then Chuck got up, and he was walking behind Andy, matching step for step. And I said, "What you doing?" And Chuck said, "Following Jesus, dude." And we giggled and got in line, and then we were all followers of Jesus. And Jesus led. And if Jesus drank, we drank. And if Jesus danced, we danced. And if Jesus did a bong hit, we praised Jesus and did one right after him. And we fell around giggling, and Jesus giggled too. And he led us through the silvered night, and we were free. And no one got nailed to anything.
What is Spring Jam? What's the point of Spring Jam? It's you have Hampshire Halloween, and then you have Spring Jam.
This is the drinking show with Dr. Scott. And where is our first stop going to be?
Our first stop today to a melange, la Springfest 69. What was that?
Dr. Scott here.
Thank you.
We've now approached Springfest.
Bale Fest.
We're not the official Hampshire College Bale Fest of
Very nice
1993. Spring 1993.
27.
And
Trading card and action figures.
there's a band playing.
Spring Jam, I wasn't a chair of the committee. Finn and I weren't a chair, but we were active members, and we were bringing in, just through SoundCloud, we'd find people that we thought were really good. We would almost always get yes, right? But it was just a matter of logistics or budget that we couldn't do. And the budget for those events at the time were quite large. We were talking like 30, 40 grand for one event, which is pretty cool.
I heard that this artist Lil B was coming. I liked Lil B. I thought he was funny. He was like one of the most high-profile people I think we've had at Spring Jam. I remember that I heard we got him because he was like really cheap actually. Anyways, I was really excited. I went on stage, did the cooking dance with him. One thing I liked about Lil B was the cooking dance. Put pepper in his pot. That was key. If you put pepper in a guy's pot, if someone else is cooking, if you put pepper in their pot, it's kind of like it's like a power move.
What's the use of getting sober when you're gonna get drunk again? Old Sam done something fine when he brought that good whiskey, beer and wine. Now I love my whiskey and I love my gin. Every time you see me, I'm in my sins. What's the use of getting sober when you're gonna get drunk again?
Woo!
Yeah!
Amen! From my perspective, it seemed like, there were Hampshire events that were all-inclusive, namely the Hampshire Halloween event. However, it had some drawbacks. First of all, it was at night, and so it was dark. And so it's hard to see really what was going on and see people across the campus. And second of all, it was really wild, sort of untamed, and people were really, really wild. I think that we wanted an event that was more casual, right? A daytime event when people could just enjoy the sunshine, and that was really the impetus, I think, at least from my perspective.
I knew about Kegg Hunt before I even went to Hampshire College. It's definitely like one of the greatest traditions I've ever heard of or been a part of.
Everyone kind of knew who ran it and looked forward to it. It was a good time. It was a good time. And it was people, those guys organized the shit out of that.
The reason it was such a success and the longevity of it was because of how much thought we put into that first year.
Right.
That really was the special year. One of the important things to us was a little bit formal. And you notice that the hosts as a group wore ties. Our Easter best, yeah.
Our Easter best. And that was pretty unusual, of course, for Hampshire, probably still is.
Sam had his pink bunny costume on, and you had to go to Sam to get a printout of all the clues.
Right.
I know the one involved out on the point and a joint.
Ah, right.
And the river was the stout.
I thought that the beer might get warm. Let's put it in the creek to keep it cold. You'll notice at the top of this that it says the first annual Easter Kegg Hunt. It seems as if we had in mind doing this every year. It wasn't a one-off event. And guess what? It's been going every year.
Basically, in the morning, the very early morning, when I say morning, I'm not kidding, like 4 a.m. Sometimes you just stay up all night or you camp. People head out to a certain area of the Hampshire College woods, and there's a bunch of kegs hidden around the woods. Each keg has like a theme sometimes, and basically it's like an egg hunt, but it's a keg hunt. See, very clever Hampshire College students came up with that. The Frisbee team does a makeout keg where if you're making out with somebody, then your cup gets filled up. There's other kegs like breakfast kegs and poetry kegs, fight kegs. Yeah, so you can guess what those what you have to do for those. And there's like people do creative stuff, like all sorts of interesting keg challenge ideas.
Impersonation of a celebrity or your friend. You can roast your friend. Roast battle.
Only the winner gets beer on that one.
Yep,
Only
and
the
we'll
winner gets
fill up
beer.
your cup for as long as you're doing it for. And if it starts to go over, we'll still do it.
Do your best air guitar.
Best air guitar, and I'll play the song.
Have you ever-
Or lip sync. You gotta lip sync a song. I'll put it on for you. And be good with it.
And yeah, you just go and you just drink a bunch of alcohol.
This day the Lord did rise again. He said, I shall no longer be human. I shall instead be beer.
You know, that was one difficulty. I was worried that some people might be offended because you know the sort of desecration of this religious holiday, but the people that weren't offended definitely showed up.
I feel like God.
I am God.
God made this happen.
Get going. It's all for me.
You overcame your difficulties.
I was in the tomb for a few days.
Yeah.
A little cramped.
Pretty cold in there, I hear.
Yeah. Feeling pretty good. Resurrected and all.
Yeah.
I brought my mom to it actually once. After I graduated, I came back, brought my mom to it. Yeah, she thought it was a lot of fun.
Somebody who could tell the story about Gordy.
Was that year one? That was year one, right?
Year one.
We had this whole thing all planned out, and we had gone to great lengths to get these kegs out into the woods before dawn, and we had written up the clues, and we had the plan to meet at the Hampshire tree. I was all decked out in the bunny outfit, and we were good to go. Everyone was wearing their clothes. And then we see this four-wheeler coming through the field.
Oh, yeah.
We're like, oh, shit. That's the farmer who rents this land. Like, oh, no. What are we going to do? He's not going to be happy about this. And so he drives right up to the Hampshire tree, and, we don't know anything about him. And he gets off his four-wheeler, and he says, so what are you guys doing, hiding beer out in the woods? And we said, we were kind of just like, yeah. And he goes, that's the best goddamn idea I've ever heard.
And then in the, I believe 2001, he came with the tractor.
That year that he brought the tractor, I drove it.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, that's why he's hanging out the door. Because I'm driving it. And why he let me drive it, I have no clue.
Ladies and gentlemen, Gordy Cook.
Gordy and Andrea!
Is Andrea in there? Yes! Andrea!
I remember in the year 2000, though, that the college president threatened, he wasn't happy about the event. And he threatened to have the police come and bust the event and, potentially confiscate the kegs, which we had put deposits down on, and, essentially break up the party and maybe even lead to arrest, you never know. So, we bought the beer, but we rented the kegs with the deposit and with our ID. And so if the police were to come and confiscate the keg, then it would lead them right to the people who supplied the alcohol. We transferred at about dawn.
We transferred, yeah.
All the beer into essentially disposable 5-gallon containers.
Gasoline containers, I remember.
They were new, right? They were new.
And we had to spend like an hour doing the transfer at 5 a.m., like you said, early in the morning.
And, the police did not show up.
I'm here, man, and it's in effect. Cheers, a perfect day for the Easter Kegg Hunt.
Year 2000 was when I made my triumphant return in wheelchair. That was my first day back at Hampshire after my spinal cord injury was Easter Kegg Hunt, and I came as the bunny.
The one time we're like a whole school.
Yeah.
Everyone else is very like fragmented generally, but
yeah.
On Kegg Hunt, we're all just Kegg Hunt. You know?
Yeah.
It's great.
Well done.
Very underestimated.
It's the nature of the Easter Kegg Hunt in general.
You think so?
At this point, it's become something of like a ritual.
Yeah.
It's something that really brings people together more than anything else has. It's a fucking community. If nothing else is a community event, this is a community.
We finished the hell out of it, you know, and it's good that we did. Because, you know, if we didn't, that would be pretty weak. I mean that either people didn't want to come, people didn't care, or people didn't want to be here on Sunday morning. And it's a good thing that we can all come together and fix that.
There's something about the timing of Easter Kegg Hunt where it's one of those days where being a Sunday in April, it's like one of the most important days for you to like study, especially if like you're like working on a Div 3 or something. That's a day what you don't want to waste, and yet you're totally wasting it on the best thing ever.
Rover,
I am a rover.
I seldom am sober.
Seldom am sober.
I am a rover of high teen green. That's when I'm drinking, I'm often thinking how to get that woman in bed with me. Dan,
Yes?
next year, or the year after next year?
Which will be your Div 3 year?
No, the year after my Div 3 year.
Yeah.
You guys must hold this tradition strong.
Indeed. Very strong. Very strong.
Party continues forever. This goes to all you future Kegg Hunt goers watching this famous video because of Esme. You gotta keep this shit going. Big shoes. 4th years, 3rd years, you buy the kegs. You're 21. No one else can. Everybody else, try to throw down. Is this a rap or is this a rant? I'm not rhyming. I'm just telling some fucking truth.
And the reason that this is also really, it works, I think, is because something about the cops not being able to enter the woods or don't having any jurisdiction out there. And that kind of like creates the solid ground of this thing that, you know, can't be taken away from us. They can take away parties in the mods. They can take away having any sort of fun for Hampshire Halloween. But they can't stop us when we're not on campus grounds.
It was a fucking magical experience the first time I walked out into the woods and like heard the music at first.
Getting closer to it.
Saw the lights from a distance.
Like walking through the woods and like falling these glow sticks. I don't know where they go. And like you just like hear music and you know you're getting closer and closer and closer.
And then you finally arrive and you just like you emerged into this whole scene.
There was like this real feel of like bacchanalia, like it was like bass thumping. Like I will never figure out how the music that was out in those woods was out in those woods.
Having a great night at Hampshire College tonight, 2019. It's fucking lit.
So have you gone to a lot of woods parties?
The cool ones.
You know, when you're going to someone's mod party, you have like a certain connotation about who lives there and like what's going to be played. And when you're going to a woods party, I don't think you know quite as much what to expect.
I like that I don't feel as like uncomfortable at UMass parties, where it's like everyone's around me and boys are predatory. Everyone here's just fucking nice and smoking weed. Like, what's the problem? Made out with my first girl in college at a Hampshire party last year. That is so sweet. It was exciting. Actually, I love that. Every girl I made out with in college started at a Hampshire party. They're so much fun. You just bring community together.
When do you get to do that? When do you get to create a community? That's like what college is for.
Like I can't fathom how hard it was for people to do what felt like a really spontaneous, like, let's go out in the woods and we're just gonna dance.
I'ma be doing my thing. Do it. Okay. I'ma sing it this way. I'ma sing it this way. It's Frankie Fergie.
subwoofer, we had 2 big speakers, we got the amp, we got everything. And it was that year as well that Fort Mangold appeared in our lives. The way we would situate our setup on the fort was there's like a first tier, then there's a second tier, which is basically a roof or a platform. And that top platform is like 10 feet tall. So what we would do in the beginning is we would put all of our shit up there. We'd put our table, we'd put the speakers, and there was like some crappy little railing around it. And from up there, we would DJ down onto the crowd.
And I can tell you all sorts of crazy stories. The thing that made the woods was the fact that we did it, and the fact that people came. That's what made it special. It was very much if you build it, they will come moment.
I've met a lot of people who like didn't party, but they would go to these. And they'd be like, getting there was half the fun.
And yeah, dude, I had sex at one of those parties, like next to a tree.
By the end, like oftentimes what would happen is by the ends of those nights, there would be like 3 to 6 people there for like 4 hours, from like, 5 to 9. And that's when the party was great, right? Because, I mean, it's just like, you can't explain, you can't capture in photo, you can't. These are true human moments. That's like community is, and that kind of like energy at the end, that coming together is just intangible. Because it is so personal, it's so visceral, like the smells of that place, the sounds, it's just too much. You can't tell that story. What you can do is you can give anecdotes to it, and you can decide whether it sounds important to you or not. I think in my case, I had like 100 best nights in college. But that's a symptom of throwing great parties. Getting stuff there is hard to where we were throwing them before, very hard. There, we found some ways to get in. The farmers threatened us a couple times. We got a truck stuck in the mud. It's just, the list goes on. My last year, passing the torch to a couple first years, I knew that I needed to leave it to someone and they were gonna do it in their own way.
So Team Magma, to the best of my memory, was basically just a group of friends trying to throw woods parties.
I saw people carrying some shit and I was like, hey, do you guys need help carrying shit? And then just slowly I met more of the people who
Carried more shit.
Yeah, I carried more shit and met more and more people who were throwing them. And then the people who were leaving the school kind of like transferred over their equipment to us. And we kind of like continued throwing them in the same vein that they had been throwing them. For a little bit at least.
The woods parties were a success back then, I think. I was young. The Team Magma ones specifically were mostly Declan and or Aiden DJing. There was basically a booth, stage, whatever you want to call it, for the DJs, and a bar for the bartender, and like the lights everywhere. It was just like really set up. It wasn't just like an open space in the woods. It was really made, and it was just like a lot of people getting really drunk. Really dancey, really produced. But there are also a couple woods parties from that year that weren't them that I really, really enjoyed. Like there was the live band woods party from that year.
I think that's really what transcends the woods parties from like, okay, it's a party to like, this is an experience.
I feel really good about people being like, okay, this might be a decent college experience.
Right?
Not even can I just get my education, will I have fun here?
Right?
Will this be, as the parents say, the best years of my life?
I was the bartender, which was my favorite because I could totally socialize with everyone, but from a distance with something in front of us. I could really see each party from like a specific vantage point. So like I could see whether it's totally taken over by UMass or whoever the kind of people are that were there, I got because they're all coming up to the bar. A lot of drunk dudes, which is why I'm glad that I had that barrier. But I also remember a lot of good things happen where like we had a few people throughout the different parties who felt really uncomfortable and just talked to me. Were like, hey, I'm really sorry, but like I feel really uncomfortable right now. And I'd be like, come behind the bar. Like you don't have to interact with anyone. Just stay here, protected. and that was kind of my favorite part of it.
The woods parties kept on getting like bigger and bigger, and more students from like other campuses were coming through. And then as a way to make money for the parties, we were selling alcohol, and I feel like that was kind of a downward spiral, because then the more and more alcohol was out there, like the just more unruly the parties got as a whole. It was like getting kind of scary. Like we had to like carry this one kid out to the EMTs because he was like severely having alcohol poisoning. And to like 8 of us to do it, and we were like switching in and out. That was a stressful situation.
Seeing Mount Holyoke girls drag their drunk friend that just got off the bus here into the woods.
Yeah.
Like it was like Saving Private Ryan, but they were going to get drunker. Woods parties were pretty consistent on every Saturday at a point in time.
It was every 2 weeks that we were throwing them.
UMass missed the memo or something, and they showed up on the off week.
I guess a little flyer of theirs wound up on UMass campus, and then a bunch of UMass boys were like, let's go to the woods party.
But if one person on, remember Yik Yak, says, party in the woods, Hampshire, is anything going on? You know, that gets around to their 5 colleges, and no one of the 5 colleges has ever fact-checked a party in the woods.
And we saw like hundreds of UMass kids go from the bus to the woods, and we were like, we would know if there's a woods party tonight, like we throw them. So we tried to tell some people like there's nothing out there, but they were set on it.
They were just a bunch of UMass kids in the woods.
Couldn't find a woods party, obviously, no music, no lights. So they made their way eventually towards like, you know, farm territory, the edge of the woods where we stop having land jurisdiction.
They ran into the farmer. The farmer was like, you're on my property. Didn't have the same respect as Hampshire kids. And one of the UMass kids pulls a knife, and fucking the farmer calls the cops. Some other rumor too about him shooting off a gun in the air, but I think that's bullshit.
Yeah, the thing is that you don't know what to believe.
And then their little Team Magma fort got torn down, and TBH, very sad. Saw it like on the ground recently, and I was like, that looks like, that's sad.
It was a big scandal because everyone was trying to figure out who did it. Half people were saying Hampshire administration did it, half people just said the farmers did it.
People love to exaggerate. But
yeah,
all in all, it was a real bummer that the whole shit had to be cut down because
I heard an axe, not machete.
Misinformation.
Another rumor was that it was the UMass kids angry that they didn't have a party.
Axe, machete, who gives a fuck? The whole deal is that it got taken down.
Yeah, and then they left all of like the pieces of the stage out there. Still, it looks like shit over there now.
And so, yeah, it just didn't get built back up. And so they just ended.
The fort getting torn down kind of was a catalyst for that group of people falling apart. And then along with that group falling apart, all of the equipment kind of like disappeared. So, like all of the lights, we had really nice lights. They all got dispersed into the Hampshire community. I know like where 3 of them are now. There was, I think, 9 of them at one point. One person loaned out the PA system to another local artist, and now that person lives in like New Haven, Connecticut, and just won't give us our equipment back. They were fun.
Very fun.
Drinking in here. Who smokes the butts? We smoke the butts. Who smokes the butts? We smoke the butts.
Game over. Game over.
Oh man, I'm forgetting about the yurt when I'm talking about these things because I keep thinking, it hasn't been in a while.
One time there was a spring jam party at the yurt, which was like right at the same time it converted into the radio station. There was like a million like bowls and bongs going around. We were like completely hotboxing the yurt, and I like pass it to this kid that I didn't know, and he like takes a puff and passes it on, and he's like, man, this place is great. I'm here, I'm a high school sophomore, and I'm here touring colleges with my mom, and I can't believe that this is happening. This place is great.
The yurt has definitely given me my best parties. Friday night, which at like 12, which is perfect because you go out to your party. Once that gets lame, you get to go to the yurt.
It feels like, to me, institutional in a way. Like, because the yurt is like the radio station sort of place. And I feel like there's just like so many rules in the radio station. Like if you want to have a radio show, like there's so many rules to it. And so like in my mind, every time I go to the yurt, I'm kind of like, oh, like this is like a Hampshire like place.
I don't really vividly remember the first one to memory, but I remember the first ones, and I honestly don't know if the first one was like a huge party. I think it was more of like oh, we have a radio show, we're gonna have some friends come through, like, oh cool, like, you know, people I know, music, but more like, you know, talking and also music. I honestly thought it was a great format to have people in here. It was like a talk show with a studio audience, and then every once in a while you would have, you know, like an open invite one where people would be like, well, there's no other parties going on tonight, let's go to Lady Duck. And people would come through and a lot of people would dance, and it kind of blew up.
The yurt is great because so many people have had the opportunity to like bring their own flair to the yurt. There's no one feeling with the yurt like there is with someone's mod. And like different people can host a party in the yurt in the same night. Like there can be like 3 different DJs and 3 different friend groups that all like meld together into one like late night thing.
There's something about the space, the shape of, the very specific amount of people you can have in here, the door, the little porch outside.
And it's also like just big enough that the party can get just like crazy enough or like just packed enough to be memorable.
It got a little clubby sometimes, it got a little rave, but also there were times that they were really solid, just like lights on jams, everyone's kind of talking and stuff, but you know, there's a range of it. It's just kind of where I met everybody I know. It's where I socialized, it's where people came through.
The yurt was the only place where you would see like 4th years talking with 1st years and 2nd years talking to 3rd years and everybody just mingling and getting to know each other.
Most parties are, you know, you walk around, you talk to different people, but the yurt is like if you're inside, you're dancing, if you're outside, you're chilling and waiting to go back inside to dance.
That's like why I party.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Dancing is integral to parties, to partying, to everything that has to do with partying.
Even people who could dance, there were some dancers. We all just got silly with it sometimes.
Everybody danced, you know, even the people who were, you know, would only wear black and look at the ground and pretend they were too cool for anything. Everybody danced.
And it requires playing good music that people can actually dance to.
First time I felt like really comfortable at a party was when I recognized the music that was being played. Because when I recognized the song and I could sing along and be like, oh, I know who sings this, that made me feel like I was supposed to be there. Like this party was for people like me, people who know this song.
I do think like getting creative and being a little shameless about what you'll play is what gets the party going, because everybody at Hampshire goes for the throwback hits for sure.
Some 80s and 70s funk.
The Clash or the B-52s or the Talking Heads.
Some house music.
A lot of Prince.
Tribes Called Quest, Cypress Hill, The Far Side.
I think you can throw some pop tunes in there too. At the right time, you need to throw some pop tunes in there.
Little John's Turned Down for What was real hot when that came out in 2014.
I like to do a lot of, I don't know what it's called, when you like play things that are like specifically opposing one another.
I mean, it was like solid 90s, like greatest hits.
Early 2000s to like 90s rap, anything that has like a 1, 2, 3, 4.
I will forever associate the song Push It with Prescott parties.
A Sly and the Family Stone kind of song, or two or three, you know, that everybody could kind of groove to.
It would be Al Green playing or Stevie Wonder playing, and this was all just new. And I can remember just dancing for hours and hours and hours.
I just picture dancing to Come On Eileen at the Yurt, you know, and like everyone knows it, everyone's into it, and just like kind of the classics that is barely even dancing anymore because you're just kind of shouting. So the Yurt definitely has been my favorite venue.
In its prime, the Yurt was awesome because it was reliable.
Then the Yurt started to become a source of great contention among the many different groups that used it, and it's definitely a loss.
Like, after the Yurt, it's been like, what are we gonna do this weekend? Are we gonna do anything this weekend? Is there gonna be anything to do this weekend? And that shit sucks.
When I first got here, like, I feel like the woods parties I went to my first year were just like kind of trash.
I'm pretty sure I went to a Bluetooth speaker woods party once.
I think the woods parties have been getting a lot better because a certain someone has been like hosting them and like making them good.
The first woods party I threw.
And it was a great party and it was like so beautiful. I think that was my favorite thing about it. Like the night was super clear and the lights looked beautiful and like everyone came and everyone had fun and there were no like hiccups with the technology or anything.
We left it kind of to the last minute. It was like sunset when we started setting up. And I was stressed. I was all day stressed. I was up at like 7 in the morning being stressed about like, oh my God, it's my first woods party.
Parties take work.
Parties take work.
A lot of planning. Best parties,
especially the woods
require
parties.
planning.
You need a good crew. And I don't mean crew in like, oh, you need a lighting guy and a sound guy. No, you need your best friend that wants to do it with you. That's willing to like bust his ass to throw some speakers on his back and to haul it out there with you, because the people you do it with are the most important thing.
Yeah, this tree is good too. George and I were doing the jumps with the trees over here last time.
Perfect.
Definitely took a lot of people to make it happen. Between like the people who were like going out and buying the beer and like renting the equipment, and then people carrying shit, and people setting it all up, and then people who actually play the music, and people who helped with the trash.
Don't be afraid of doing things that haven't been done before. And I know that sounds super cliche, but like we hadn't hauled a band out into the woods. We didn't know what was gonna happen. Don't be afraid of failure. The best thing about throwing parties at Hampshire is that no one's going to care if you fail. It's not like you have $100,000 riding on making this event gross, $200,000. You just want your friends to have a good time. Experiment with what that means.
People are gonna go to the woods party, and people are definitely gonna stay there for a minute because I just walked out into the woods. I'm not leaving the minute I get there.
It was really important to us that they were safe, because the parties that had been happening the year before, after the fort got torn down, were not safe.
If you can't see other people's faces, you probably don't feel super safe and you probably want to go home.
Do we want lights here to here?
I know that as a producer at Hampshire back in my time, if somebody was having a rough experience, I could go help them out, right? I would be there for them in a sense. Or at least two of my friends would be there for them. But it was real easy to walk home alone and have a bad night and then have to deal with that the next day.
Unfortunately, the speaker is broken! So, feel free to chill the fuck out, but that's all we got! Thanks for coming!
It's easy to get there, but like it's scarier to like go back for some reason. So you gotta find like a buddy, and like you don't know when your friends might have already all left, and so like you're looking for like your friend, anyone you know, and like, are you going? When are you going back? And some people like are so confident, like I know the way. I'm like a leader in taking people back. I was never that guy, so I was like always looking for someone that like I could trust to like take me back. And then you find out that they're drunk and they don't know what's going on.
If you get lost in the woods, you probably did something to piss the woods off. Because I always pick up my trash and I've never gotten lost. So.
Leave no trace in the woods. leave it better than you found it. Leave it so the next generation can still enjoy these things.
We're just a couple of young students in the woods right here with a speaker, maybe a generator, and some lights, and that's what we do.
And the lights don't even light up that much.
Yeah, you know,
That's all I gotta say.
the speaker's not even that loud. But we make the best of it, honestly, because it's so much fun.
We're in the woods.
I don't know if it's unique to Hampshire or not, but it feels like all of the parties, particularly the ones in the woods, were just a release. Like it was just, fuck, we are spending all of our time kind of isolated talking about what we are studying. And half the time, you know, what you were studying, you were the only one studying it. You were the only one doing it. Like you were so focused on this narrow lens, but you were so focused that when an opportunity came up, you just let it all out. Like you just were, it was just this huge release of everything.
I think what Hampshire's been through with this financial crisis and all of that, it made us all come together and become more of a community. I feel like that's how more people are geared towards, like, you know, being nice to one another, considering that they've all been through the trauma of what happened. And
yeah, and we stuck it out.
Yeah, we all stuck it out. We all were there for each other through all of that was happening. So I guess there's more sense of a community now than there was my first year.
The single most important thing we can do as a college is keep celebrating, and keep celebrating ourselves, and keep celebrating the fact that we're still here, and that we're gonna keep being here, and that solving the social isolation problem through celebration and through togetherness is the way that the college comes out of the dark. You know, you're gonna hear a lot over the next couple of years about balanced budgets and increasing enrollment and retention and increasing fundraising. And I'm gonna tell you, as someone that sat on all the strat planning commissions, looked at all the data, was intimately involved in all facets of social life and lived Hampshire, that we can do all those things. But if you don't solve the problem of social isolation and togetherness and acting as a community, we're just gonna be here again in 10 years.
Just throw the party. Because what's the worst that could happen? You know what I mean? Like, what is the worst that could happen? You are providing a space for that release, and you need it, you need it, you need it. Because that release does not happen in the real world. Like, it's really hard to find that release. It's really hard to find it.
There's just countless stories of people you love and people you don't know getting into shenanigans, having way too much fun, like drinking way too much, but like not way too much, but like drinking a lot, and just having like a truly revelrous time. And I think there is serious value to partying.
I guess my best advice is to just like not have an ego about it. Like, if people want certain songs, obviously don't let them take over, but just like listen.
There's nothing as lame as a really serious DJ.
It's all a community rather than like, I'm throwing this party and you're not, so like listen to me.
You want to have at least one love interest at a party.
Be kind to your RA if they come to try and shut you down or get you to be quieter, because if you're nice when they try to get you to be quieter, they probably won't shut you down.
Find a lot of people to help you carry shit.
If you're gonna drink 1 glass of water for every booze drink that you drink to keep yourself safe and, you know, avoid hangovers.
Use it as a time to like have fun, and like music was always really good. I will always say that. Really good music, always was really good music here, and I always really loved that.
You know, if you're doing something cool, like it's gonna attract a whole slew of people that want to get in for weird reasons. So be nice, but also, you know, remember, you got the sauce. You're the one who's throwing the party. You know how to do it. That's your party. You can kind of call the shots there.
I don't know what advice. I'm an old man now. I am, You know, I just think it's important not to get stuck.
Don't be shy to ask the DJ to play your song. I'm sure everyone's gonna like it. And just like dance, no one gives a shit.
Parties are so personal. Like, you know, your party could be for 4 people and it would be a satisfying party. Just as satisfying for you as a party for 50 people would be for somebody else. So you have to really like do your own thing, do it your own way.
Parties are great because they're fun, but there's also a lot of responsibility with parties in terms of a lot of people come to parties to do some fuck shit, like just really to act up. And I think that as someone throwing a party, you need to be prepared to deal with people, but also you need to try to have the most fun as opposed to trying to see whether or not people are having fun. You need to have fun yourself because people have fun based on you having fun.
Just be stupid and have fun out there if you're in the woods. Like, that was my first piece of advice that a first year asked me at some point last year. They're like, do you have any advice for me? I was like, you're young. You don't need advice, just go. But like, be safe.
Do it yourself, and keep doing it yourself, and do your best, and love, and also peace.
Freaks come out at night. Ah, the freaks come out at night. Yeah, yeah. Am I scary enough to carry a track all the way back like Harry? Using that essence of mind to shatter the sequence of time is my cherry. And set the scene like the doors ignore the screens and light a candle for each EMC on call. Superstition, permission for Hampshire beans from hallucinogens and alcohol. Well, that party's on and we all just like a bomb. So we about to explode. This ain't no time to try to remain calm. Quick, grab an arm, it just might be your last. Ain't no need to hold back, cause we all going out with a blast. Boom, shake, 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 shake the room. Gonna exhume on you the Hampshire Halloween anthem. Happy Halloween, you freaking motherfuckers. Hampshire Halloween, come out and freak this party. Yeah. Happy Halloween, you freaking motherfuckers. Hampshire Halloween, come out and scream like a freak. What's scary than a school with no grades? Let's see, croquet, no play, and the fact that we're gonna rule this world someday. But if it ain't freaky, make it so. Give them the benefit of the doubt, we watch you so, and dim them hollow lights so nobody will know what I'm about to do to you or what you about to do to me. School never been so interesting, baby. College anatomy, I'm working on my PhD. Your mind, your body, your spirit, you got it, you hear it, you near it, devour the souls and you clear. What sound now is the prime of the midnight. Get the nightlife, fit like a midriff, and lift it like a poltergeist. It's a ghost town, barely haunted, barely diminished. The souls that are upon us, they gotta be going when they got us. It's a dirty house. Plus it's even no more dirty style. Heavy indulger, tomorrow we turn this month over. Cause there ain't no better way to flip it than the 31st of October. So happy Halloween, you freaking motherfuckers. Hampshire Halloween, come out and freak that party. Happy Halloween, you freaking motherfuckers. Hampshire Halloween, come out and party this freak. Yeah, 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 yeah.